Hey famous warrior, welcome back to our channel.
We had the Vitz, we had had it for like 5 years, and we're like, look, things are rough.
Yeah.
Look, the money is that we have to just sell it. So we sold our Vitz. Thankfully, my sister-in-law was buying a car for Orlando. So I said, I can be your driver. Let's just, at least we have a car. And so even my wife got a car from one of the church members, and she also started now doing Orlando, but also doing cash-in. So both of us were actually doing cash-in. And it was rough because now the money that you're making
It's for someone else.
Yes. So there's very little to actually pay debt. So it was just a cycle until God just came through.
Yeah.
Remember the initial amount? So probably from 150 it reduced to about 110, 100. Thankfully, someone came through and said, look, how much is your debt? This is your debt. Okay, I'll pay it, 100.
Wow.
And 10. They knew our situation and they paid. Not knowing that there was another debt. So me, I'm happy. December.
You're breathing easier.
Yes. It's been a crazy year. We can now do party after party. Right? And January comes because I'm like, look, now that we've paid the debt, let's have meetings. Let's now plan for the year.
Yeah.
There's a bit of resistance. I'm like, what's happening? Anyway, let's continue with our life. Because naturally, because my personality is an S, my default is usually to be passive.
Yeah.
Really, it's very easy to be passive.
Because of your personality.
Yes, right? So I quickly just went into passive mode as we continued just working, just providing and
So
all
you
that.
kind of went on autopilot.
Yes, right? And then February comes, this is now 2022. I'm receiving calls from people. Your wife is not picking up. What's happening? I confront her and she says, yes, I was not open with you. There's actually more debt. Yeah. Another, how much was that? I think 90 or something. Because remember, it had also been accumulating. Yeah. Because she didn't really have confidence in me. Yeah. I sat down and like, look, we now need to face the consequences of this. Number one, now this is now the time I was actually manning up. Because before then, we were doing things separately. I'm like, look, now we need to now.
We have to be on the same page.
We have to be on the same page. We need to be in one accord for us to actually finish off this loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't even tell the person who actually paid for us.
Yeah.
Because they think.
Yeah, they cushioned us. And,
Yes.
You know, they've
Yeah.
given us a proper payment plan or whatever.
Yeah. So consequences. Number one, we can't. No more Hungry Lion. No more fast foods. Maybe once in a while when you're really stressed, but we can't afford.
Yeah.
We have an anniversary, we can't celebrate it. Right? Christmas, like for the past 3-4 years, apart from last year, all the Christmas days and New Year's, we were working. Yeah. And again, because it was a great day to actually work. So we just had to.
You had to sacrifice.
Yes. We couldn't do a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? And then we said, look, you are in a Chilimba, I'm also in the Chilimba. Let's put our heads together. And this way now the idea of, because she was contributing 200 kwacha a day, I was doing 300, so 500. And because the payouts were almost every week actually, you would get like a 3-5 or 4-5. because I think there was one payout I was doing 150. So now we structured it. So this payout, when it comes on the 5th, I pay rent. On the 10th, we pay this debt. So we actually now had to list, and I said, I'm now taking over. That was now manning up.
Keywords.
Yes, I'm taking over. Please, all the people that you owe, give them my number. Oh, I want their numbers. So that I call them, we come up with a plan. Because every debt, whether it was 5 pin, 10 pin, 15 pin, 20 pin, 25, it needed to be paid there and then.
Yeah.
But I was like, look, we can't do this anymore. And I remember even calling a friend of mine and saying, look, this is the situation again. Can you lend us even just 30 pin? And then we'll pay back, of course, even with interest, but we'll pay back in a period of 5 months. This is our payment plan. And we're in a Chilimba, we'll be paying this amount. So that we clear off these, and we remain with one village banking, so like 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, of course, there were a few others. At some point, actually, we had 15 people that we owed.
Wow.
The good part is that we're not ignoring them. Every time they would send me a message now, I would respond.
Yeah.
I reached a point, I think that year, I didn't even update my status on Facebook because of shame.
Yeah.
This is someone who teaches at Rema.
Yeah.
They've been talking about
This
all this.
Christian.
Yes, exactly. So you also isolate. In isolation, there was also depression.
Yeah.
My wife also got depressed. She was also almost committing suicide. There was a point where she was driving and she just wanted to, because I think it was too much, she wanted to just hit into another truck. She didn't. I also, when I was using my sister-in-law's car, driving in the evening, and I think that day we had like 3 people that I owed that I needed to pay, I think the following day. And it was just, there's so much that one can only handle.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving in Independence Avenue, and a thought hit me. Let me just hit a tree and just end it. And the Holy Spirit there and then said, now what happens? Because the Holy Spirit also has a sense of humor. Then he says, what happens if you hit into a tree and then you are still alive?
No,
Double tragedy. Plus the car,
yes.
which is not yours.
What you gonna do?
Yes. So that actually sobered me up. But also, what kept me going and kept us going were the few friends that knew about the situation who would check up on us.
Yeah, not judge you.
Yes, they would. Pastor Sammy would just go, how is it going? Right? You had people that, I don't know whether they knew about our situation or it was just God who, they knew that we're doing Ulendo. So they would just go and say, look, I have kids that you can pick up for the whole week. And for us, that was good money. And we'd do that. Oh no, you're able to pick up this, you're able to pick up that. That would also help us. Right? So friends also just checking up on us. How is it going? And all that, that really kept us going because my faith was really
At an all-time low.
Yeah. And now I needed friends like that guy who was taken to Jesus. I was also with my friends. They carried me to Jesus because my faith was just,
So from what you're describing with what happened with the debt and everything, it seems like communication played a huge part. So at first the communication wasn't great because there was a lack of trust and lack of confidence. And then now there's this coming clean, right? How do you think your response as you are manning up gave your wife the freedom and the safety to tell you like everything now and trust that you're not going to murder her, chase her, divorce her, out her, and there's that also, you mentioned earlier the characteristics of love, and I know the Bible speaks of love covers a multitude of sins. And when your wife comes to you with something that she's done and she knows she's messed up, are you going to be that husband that now piles it on, or are you going to cover that multitude of sins? Tell us about what you did now when you had to face the reality of what was on the ground.
Yeah. So what really helped was 2 years prior to that situation, me and the pastors of the church, we were doing a weekly study of a book called Kingdom Men, right? And we did it for almost a year or so, right? And in that book, I got to realize one of the profound statements. It states that for a Proverbs 31 woman to flourish, the man has to enable that environment for a Proverbs 31 to flourish. But also there were also elements of the aspect of Christ, that I as a man should be like a Christ, should be like Christ, right? So that now helped me. So even when she was now finally now telling me, yes, I was disappointed, I was frustrated, I was discouraged, but I was like, look, let's sit down. Let's now put our heads together, because for so long we've been, and let's communicate, let's discuss. And so now what we started doing now was, because we had put our heads together, I think things started now moving in a very methodical way. Now I had to call all those people that we owed, right? And it wasn't a nice experience. You're calling the chairwoman of the village banking, like, look, I'm now with information that my wife has this debt, and from now onwards you will now be talking to me, and I will be paying you. And can we come up with a payment plan? What's the total amount that we owe? Someone would say 27,000. Okay, can we be paying? Right now I can't tell you the exact amount, but we'll be paying as and when. But every month we'll be paying something. They were like, okay. And it actually helped. I think even the women were shocked. The women I was talking to, they were shocked that the man was actually the one who was calling. So that actually gave me a grace period.
Because they were so surprised.
Yes. So that gave us a grace period, but in the meantime, we now started paying. Slowly but surely, we were paying. We'd do screenshots. And things were also going on well, because now it was when both of us now... Oh, I even forgot something. So when we sold our car, the person who actually gave us the 100,000 or 110, somewhere there, to actually pay for the debt, also said, what else do you need? We said, we need a car. So we ended up buying a car for about 50 pin. And that's what now helped us with the Yango. So now what we'll do is that we'll exchange with my wife, and we would both do Yango, Ulendo. And thankfully that time, Yango had just come on the scene, and they were giving bonuses. So when you do 25 trips, they would give you 1,000 the following day, or 1,500, something like that. So that really helped us to actually quickly pay off the debt. And slowly, that list of 15 people started reducing to about 10. And what I was doing now is that every month I was updating my wife. Like you said, communication. So I'm updating, this is the list. This is where we're at. We're remaining with 90,000 to pay. Slowly, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30. I think we reached about 40. And that was now end of December 2022. And I think because the cost of living was also a bit crazy, Yango stopped giving bonuses, so the business was a bit tough. So we were not paying as we were ought to, but we had finished with my friend who had lent us, I think, a 35. A number of them we had actually cleared. We were just remaining with a few, right? I think about 7 or 8. There were actually 2 who had actually lent us money a year before. No interest. These were Christians, but I would update them like, look, we can't pay. could you give us some time? And they're like, okay, no problem. And thankfully, in April of 2023, last year, the government announced that there was a NAPSA payout.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I quickly,
Quickestly.
that same week, we signed up, we received the katiti, and we decided, okay, let's pay.
Wow.
And we now started paying off. Even those people we owed 500 kwacha, I think there was a pastor who had owed 500 kwacha. And he was shocked because I think I had got it like in July. I think I'd even forgot it. Yeah, but I was like, here's a 500. We started just paying. The village banking, because I think we were a bit consistent. I remember the lady calling me and said, look, because I think what had remained was about 12,000. And then they said, look, how much do you have? And we said, right now, and we had just gotten the NAPSA, said, we have a 6. Like, just pay that and that's it. We'll write off the other 6. I was like, wow. Because, and the lady was like, it's rare to see a man stepping up for the wife. So we're just going to write it off. Yeah. I was like, wow. And we ended up paying. And yes, we remained with a bit, not even much actually, but it was okay.
Yeah.
We had paid off everything. And after we had paid off, my wife wrote a message to me now saying that over the past few years, she had lost confidence. She didn't actually think that would actually pay off everything. But now she sees Christ in me. Hey, that message, I still have it. Yeah, because every time I'm feeling low, I just got that same message.
It's a booster.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, she was just like, look, thank you for stepping up. I now really fully trust in you to be the priest of the home and also the provider. Yeah. If the consequences to that, some friendships were affected. Yeah. And I think that's what led to the shame. Some friendships were affected in the sense that maybe you're supposed to pay on the 5th, maybe you paid on the 10th, you delayed a bit. Of course, you did not
do it deliberately.
Yes, it was just so many. You know. So that was also affected for some people. But the people that really knew the situation, understood, and even to this day we're really good friends. Yeah.
Wow. I want to come back to self-care and you taking time for yourself, but before I ask you that question, tell me what you learned about honesty and humility from this experience.
This situation humbles you.
Yeah.
And I realize also that I needed to go through this because I saw myself even when I was working for the church. There was a lot of pride. There was also a lot of focus on the title. But now you're in this situation and you just have to depend on God.
Yeah.
And you realize it's not about me. And it just humbles you. Even with the honesty part, you also get to realize that it's key. I think for a marriage to flourish, it's key. Thankfully, I had people that would hold me accountable, because I think that we would have also been divorced.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
Yes,
for a marriage.
we would have been divorced easily.
Yeah.
There were also moments where we should have actually gone into we should have actually been on separation. Yeah, because it was really a messy situation. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay. At the beginning of the conversation, you talked about soccer, guy time, your man cave, having an outlet as a man. And then we got into this space where you're under so much pressure to a point where you're experiencing shame, you're detached, you're feeling depressed. How did you take care of your mental health and just you as a person so that you could keep showing up for your wife and showing up for your family?
I'll use a Christian answer and a vulnerable answer.
Okay.
The Christian answer, I get to realize that the grace was sufficient. Because I don't think in my own strength I would have managed, because every single day we were working. Saturdays, especially Saturdays, you start working at 7:30. You're only getting back at home 01, 22, 23. You're working throughout. So that also affected the social life.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, the past 3 years, Saturdays were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's from a Christian perspective. The grace was sufficient.
Yeah.
From a vulnerable point of view, it wasn't easy. Yeah, no. I think no one should go through what we went through. It really... There was also temptation to actually fall. Yeah. A lot.
To just have an outlet and just cope.
Yes. Yeah. So I know I'll get crucified for saying this, but I wouldn't have blamed anyone if they had fallen. Yeah. Because it was just crazy. Yeah. A few things that kept me sane. Number one, interestingly, I was still teaching at Rema. That helped me.
Ground you.
Yes. Yeah, that helped me. Football, because I did it for a long time, so that was really my outlet.
Yeah.
It was only last year when I stopped. So during that, especially from 2020 to about 2022, soccer was like, yes, I had that. Yeah, so that really helped.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Also, with another thing about self-care is finding one or two people that you can actually be real with and open with.
All the way real.
Yes, like just real. I have a friend who knows my everything.
Yeah.
And whenever I meet with them, they still see me as someone who is a child of God.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are the friendships that we need especially in the Christian circles, where you've seen all my
ugly stuff.
Yes, but you still, the way you see me, it's like the way Jesus sees me. Yeah. So I think that has also helped to the point where I remember meeting with the guy. In fact, there are two guys, so I share different things with them, right?
Yeah.
And every time we have a conversation, you feel that burden just out, because you can just be real. They don't see you as someone who teaches at Rema. They don't see you as someone who used to work for a church or who works for a church. They just see you as Kema. And I think we need more of that in the Christian circles. Yes, where I can just say, look, Lelo, I don't feel like being a Christian. I just want to watch a movie.
And just let it rip.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I think that also helped with self-care. There are still other elements that it's a process. I'm also getting to realize that time doesn't heal wounds. So it's a process. There's still, I think at the right time, there'll also be some therapy and counseling. Yes, I remember even yesterday when we had a very vulnerable conversation with my wife, and she was like, you need to go. So I think I'm not like 100%, but again, who is 100%?
Yeah, I mean,
3 years, I'm not 100% okay, but again, I'm not like 0%. I'm okay. Yes. I'm healthy, okay, but I think I can be better. Yes. And it ties in with your book, You're Worth the Fight, right? When you look at Christ loving the church was worth the fight for Christ. And even my wife was worth the fight. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. If you guys are watching and you don't have tissue out, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, for sharing what you've learned from this horrible situation that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And as a final thought to the men out there, married, not married, in a situation like yours, or maybe they've never experienced something that heavy. But there are men out there that are wondering, like, what is it to be a man? What is my purpose? What am I doing in this marriage? Are we working? Are we united? Are we one? They say marriage is supposed to be two people becoming one, but I don't feel like we're one. And there's all these questions and doubts and all that. What final thing would you say to that man out there that's been listening to this conversation?
Okay. So number one, as a man, I believe it's important for you to create that environment for your wife to flourish. That means that you are the provider, you are the priest, you are sacrificing your time and just everything for her and the children. And this then means that you are second place, in the sense that your priority now becomes them rather than my needs. It's about how can I fulfill my wife's needs, how can I fulfill my children's needs, rather than how can they fulfill my needs. So it stops about, so it's more like you loving like Christ did, because Jesus Christ selflessly loved the church. And so as men, we need to love them. And that means being patient with them, because they're the weaker vessel. Forgiving. It's not easy. There's a book called Forgiving What You Can't Forget. You can actually read that book. Excellent book. I'm still reading it. But you actually also have to get to a place where you rise above culture, because culture says don't forgive your wife. But you rise above culture, and your culture now becomes the Bible. And the Bible says, forgive as Christ forgave the church. The other thing that I would actually encourage you is to have friends that you can actually be vulnerable with, open up with, and be real with. And so if you don't have, pray to God. God will easily actually and is ready to actually provide you with authentic and real friends that you can actually open up to. Ultimately, as men, we really need to rise up, because our children are looking up to us. It's not easy, but we need to step up. We need to step out of our comfort zone. If it means us stopping to watch our favorite game so that we are spending time with our children, are spending time with our family, let it be. For example, for me, I reached a point where, in as much as I'm a soccer fan, and I couldn't watch as many games as I would because I needed to sacrifice for my family. But it doesn't show on my face, doesn't, that I missed Chelsea beating Man U, or I had to just say that.
Just throw that in there real stealth-like.
Yeah. But we have to sacrifice. We need to step up.
Wow. I am so much better for having had this conversation. I'm grateful for your vulnerability. I'm grateful for you sharing what you have in you. I can tell you're so passionate about men and men stepping up. And I am so thankful that you took the time to be here today and to share with our Famous Warrior community, you know. For all the famous warriors watching out there, if you haven't had your notebook out and you're not taking down notes, I would advise you to watch this episode again and do that. And also remember that regardless of where you are, you can step up, you can man up, you can take responsibility, you can change today. It's not too late, because you are worth the fight.